You're now plugged into the Delphi podcast.
Hey everyone, it's Tommy, one of the founding partners at Delphi Ventures and your host. And today I'm thrilled to have on the founders of Dev.Fun, which is the easiest way to turn any idea you have into a reality through vibe coding. They're the most used vibe coding platform in Web3. They have 22,000 applications launched. People visit the site, they type in their idea, they can launch an app, they can continue to iterate on it. It's really not that expensive. It's super easy to do. And they're also able to link tokens directly to these projects that are created. Devlord and Robi, how's it going?
It's going
Hey
great.
man, how's it going?
Thanks for having us here.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I found you guys through building a tower defense game on your site that I thought was pretty solid, but I don't think either of you were able to beat it. Is that true?
Yeah, I don't think anyone's been able to. It's too
Yeah, I tried
strong.
my best.
It's fun. I think I went through like hundreds of iterations and then I was just sold on the platform. It's so easy to use. You guys did a great job.
Yeah, I mean, we're just thrilled to see like people building all type of games and applications and just having fun. That's our goal since day one. So I was very thrilled to see you do this.
That's awesome. Let's start with some founder stories about how Dev.Fun came about. Maybe I don't know, Devler, we could start with you and go to Robbie and mix and match.
Yeah, I mean, I've been pretty much coding with AI since it's possible to do so. Like GPT had like the first like kind of usable versions. Just trying, like, if I can recreate my school project was how I started. See how much time I've wasted, going to school basically. Turns out like it was pretty good. And at the same time, like we're like all pretty close to the Pump.fun team. We're like early investors. Robbie was running their TikTok. Our view and our thesis was that Pump launches like don't have to be necessarily limited to meme filter coins. And we can also maybe use it to fund like real projects, software and consumer apps. We didn't see a lot of kind of utility-based project at the time that spawned there. And I mean, I love the attention markets as much as the next person, but I thought it would be nice to let people also iterate on consumer products and kind of have like something a bit more substantial that's also possible to be done.
Robbie, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in crypto since around last cycle. Mainly started off with trading, which wasn't super successful for me, but um, got more and more successful this cycle. Yeah, then started off doing the social media TikTok for Pump.fun, and that's basically how I met Devlord and our other co-founder. And yeah, I was pretty much on board with the idea pretty early on as well. I mean, I have a non-technical background, and I always had these ideas that I kind of wanted to go and get out there and create. But I was always kind of limited by my ability to code, right? And yeah, as soon as I heard about this idea that you can basically turn anything that you have in your mind into a working, functioning app, I was pretty hooked, pretty excited. And yeah, I was also pretty excited to see how excited other people are about this. And I think that probably ties more into like how like the product launched and what we were expecting there. But I think that's something that we can probably get into at the later stages of this podcast.
For sure. When I was diligencing you guys for an angel check, along with my partners, the thesis kind of came to me that you guys are helping to lower the barrier to create an app to close to zero, right? Like we saw how many DeFi apps were created in DeFi summer and you had to code. In this world, you don't have to code, right? You just type in what you want, the app's created, and you could do capital formation and get funding and have your community right on the site. I know I'm maybe giving you a lob of a question here, but is that reality actually panning out? Like, do people come to you and say, "Hey, now I can build, and in the past I couldn't"? And maybe a follow-on, is it better than just doing it without a token? What are the benefits there?
Yeah. We've had a bunch of user interviews where like people are actually someone working in finance or someone working like non-creative fields, just telling us like, I have like all these ideas, all these things that I kind of wanted to put out, didn't really have like an outlet or a way to really do so, nor like the ability, and this really actually helps them get there. They have the ideas, they have somewhat of an understanding of what's going on, but the execution part is not really like what they can do themselves. And for these people, AI is just like a 10x catalyst, basically. They can just very quickly do a lot. And yeah, some of these people are using Dev.Fun, and it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, and I mean, we talk to our users every day, and we always look at the most popular apps of the day and basically chat to everybody that makes a popular app on Dev.Fun. And sometimes it's even surprising to me that these people have no technical understanding. So I'd be looking at some of these apps, and I'd be like, "Oh, this is really cool. Like, how come you got to integrate this or that or this?" And then they're like, and then I ask them like, "Do you have any sort of technical background?" And they're like, "No." And it kind of blows my mind sometimes because I see what these people are go ahead and create. But yeah, it's even surprising to us sometimes that these people have no technical understanding. But that doesn't mean that we don't have people that do. I think there's a couple successful devs that actually use Dev.Fun to build a bunch of stuff related to smart contracts or little games that involve on-chain transactions. But yeah, it's pretty cool to see that there's like a bunch of people that are actually able to turn their ideas into reality because Dev.Fun exists.
That is really cool. And I mean, Pump Fun really comes to mind here, right? I know I'll ask you your takes on it later ahead of their token launch, which we just saw tweeted out. But I'd love to talk through maybe the differences, right? Like if I'm launching a token on Pump.fun and I'm launching a token on Dev.fun, what are the differences?
I think like fundamentally it's the same thing. I think a coin is a coin. There's no like we're not like another launchpad. We're just like using Pump.fun. So technically, you're launching a Pump.fun token if you want, right? I don't think there's a need to be extremely creative on what a coin is. I think what's interesting to see is maybe the different structures that people are building around it. And what we also love to see is like how can we maybe add the utility, add different ways to kind of interact with that token. So it's not so much about the issuance process. It's more so like, what can you build around it? Can you make ecosystem? Can you turn it into utility coins? Can you turn this project into something that actually generate revenue? Maybe this can be used to like buy back the tokens and like do all those things, right? At the end of the day, it's the devs are like kind of choosing what they want to do.
That is pretty helpful. So I guess one question for you would be, I create an application, maybe let's take my tower defense game as an example, or any favorite apps that you both have. Like, how does a developer think through value flows? Is it as simple as, hey, if you want to buy an upgraded, skin or gun or something, you pay tokens and you guys capture a piece of that, or yeah, how does like the in-app economy work?
I think that's really up to the developer to decide, right? Some people want to basically monetize off of the token. Some people want to monetize off of in-app transactions, and we've seen this model across a bunch of different apps. I mean, one app that comes to mind that doesn't necessarily monetize for the token, but monetizes for something in-app related is this ticket game where you can basically buy jackpot tickets for a jackpot that basically goes ahead and gets distributed at the end of the day. So I think what our idea here is that we don't necessarily confine the developers or the users into a certain like weight for them to monetize, but we really give them all the freedom. And we've seen that these developers have come up with a bunch of like crafty, nifty, cool ideas how to monetize. So yeah, I think there's not necessarily one specific way they go ahead about this monetization pathway, but there's a bunch of different ways that developers can go ahead and do this.
Yeah, and I think like what we want to do is just give some freedom, observe what they do. If we see a behavior that's really dominating, where like, 90% of people are doing this one thing, then maybe we, had a built-in support for it. But generally, you want to see kind of what people do, and we just have to be positioned in a way that whatever is happening, we can just capture a fee from that. And how we do that is by basically just providing the framework, like the underlying frameworks that the apps are built upon, right? And this just is going to capture regardless of the way you use it, basically.
Yeah, giving them the freedom is pretty cool. It'll be interesting to see how developers monetize. And if I have an app, how far is it to explore the, you know, I want to monetize in any way? Do I just type in like the value flows, or is that like a coming feature? How do you handle that as a developer?
Yeah, we just recently released kind of like the on-chain and payment framework. It's still like kind of, I'd call it in beta. Right now, receiving payment is as easy as just saying, I want this feature to be you pay 1 sol or like 0.1 sol or whatever to access this specific thing. You can just tell the AI that, and it's gonna work automatically. Maybe you tell it like, oh, I want this to be like the wallet where this get paid, like this is my treasury address or whatever. We're gonna offer more like UI based configurations for those things that you don't even need to interact with the AI. You can just like literally click on a few configurations. But yeah, I mean, everything that you're doing is interacting with just text-based prompting, just like you would do on ChatGPT.
That's awesome. I want to start with Robbie, and then we'll definitely go to you. I want to talk through your favorite applications to date. Like we spent the last 10 minutes talking through the platform. I want to just take the listener for a journey here on what you guys are seeing as your favorites.
Sure. I mean, there's a bunch of different ones in mind. I think me and Dev are sharing share a bunch of different favorites as well. But I mean, there's different types of apps on Dev.Fun. There's like these meme type of apps that hop on some sort of narrative. But then on the other hand, there's also these like small like little tools, which I really like. One of them I always like talking about is called Dev.Fun Check. So basically, what Dev.Fun Check does is it just basically gives you the latest coins to either receive a boost on Deck Screener or get their banner updated on Deck Screener. And it's a super simple tool. It's very, very easy. And I think it was built in within 5 to 10 prompts. But what was funny to me is that I basically showed this to a bunch of like traders that I know. And they were like, yo, this is super useful. And I was like up X amount of Sol in a day because I was just sitting on this and basically just buying the newest coins to get the Deck Screener boosts or buying the newest coins to get their Deck Screener banners updated. And I thought that was like pretty cool to see that somebody could build something within 5 prompts, probably in a matter of 5 minutes. And it was actually super useful to other people. It wasn't necessarily super useful to an audience of millions of users, but to a couple different traders that actually went ahead and interacted with it. And I thought that was super cool to see that an app doesn't necessarily have to be like something that serves thousands of millions of users and makes millions of dollars of revenue, but can actually be, yeah, just useful to a couple people. But to those people, it is super, super useful. But yeah, I think Devlord also has a bunch of cool apps to share.
Yeah, I mean, I have like I think our first like kind of viral hit was these Epstein related applications. We just had like new developments in the past few days, so it's still relevant. Like some guys had this unredacted version of the files. I don't even know if that's like true or not, but like the government, like the administration just released the redacted version, and this guy on the same day published like an unredacted version. And they added this chat feature where like people can just kind of like scroll through the docs and just chat about it. And and it went like super viral. That's the first app that kind of took off from dev, so it has like a special place in my heart. Reading the chat was just a hilarious experience. There's like this social thing happening. I mean, crypto users tend to have like very interesting takes. It was just pretty humorous in general, but very funny.
Devlin, which files were those? Like which government files?
It was like the Epstein black
Oh
book,
wow.
like it was like all these Epstein related things, right? And so yeah, this was pretty funny. But I think in terms of like real like more complete apps, like we've seen recently, like Blabzer, for example, is like this info fi or whatever the category is called, that allow people to like kind of go on Twitter and talk. And so we're starting to see like some real applications that are like very solid, just kind of being built. And I think this is also super awesome to see. In general, my favorite ones are like the fun games. Like, can I be Gary Gensler and like shoot paintballs or like something like that?
That is awesome. Yeah, there was like a Jerome Powell game I played when I was first looking at you guys, where you could like mess with inflation and money printing and see if you break the economy. I think, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. All right, so we've laid the groundwork, guys. I think everyone knows what you guys are doing, what you're targeting. I want to switch to some potentially tougher questions on the longer term view. Um, so one is just the notion of vibe coding is giving everybody a software assistant, right? And I think a lot of people are debating whether AI takes over and sort of does everything for us in an AGI fashion, or if we have these, tools and assistants and things to help us. And Dev.Fun, I think, falls into that category for people. I'm curious your views on AGI just creating all the apps versus using Dev.Fun as your assistant and your tool to achieve that goal.
Yeah, I'm extremely skeptical, at least on the short to midterm, that the AI is just going to build the whole thing itself and just like kind of make millions of iterations. I just don't see it. I've been coding since it's possible to do so using AI. I barely write code manually nowadays, but I would never just let the thing build itself by AI. And I actually think it's been getting worse over time. Like as the smarter the models are getting, the worse they are at kind of just building something autonomously almost. Because I don't know, it's like they kind of get lost in the sauce. They try to come up with like these very smart solutions, and they have like way larger context windows now and way larger like possibility to output. And they just create monsters if you let them. It's just completely unmaintainable, basically. Um, I think like it actually got worse over time. That's what I feel. But if you kind of be able to like guide them very properly, like if you're able to think with good structure beforehand, if you're able to plan correctly, then they are like just incredibly powerful. So I just don't see us being just completely replaced. I think Microsoft was saying like 30% of the code is written by AI or something in the company nowadays. I don't know how true the figure is. It's probably not completely false, but I would not imagine that to be like 100% anytime soon. Humans or like maybe the code is written by AI, but like you're gonna have like software architects still kind of chiming in and like guiding the whole process basically, right?
Yeah, it is hard to think through if it does sound like most of the time letting them go off on their own leads to issues. I'm wondering like the velocity of their improvement, like if they improve to a degree where they AGI just creates any app at will. But yeah, it's a little confusing.
Yeah, I just don't see it as someone who's written so much code. I just don't see it happening anytime soon. But you know, we're like maybe just one breakthrough away, so it's also pretty hard to predict, right? I would say unless like there's a significant breakthrough in the next like 2 or 3 years, we're not replacing humans.
Yeah. And I mean, the other question I have for you is I think the idea is to create super viral apps on DevFund, right? And there becomes a time when these vibe coded applications need to graduate to full blown companies, right? They have full backends and tech stacks and full team. How are you thinking through that? Like, is there a pathway for me to create a TikTok, a Snapchat, a Telegram, or is that just outside the scope?
Um, I would say it's outside the scope of the current iteration of the product. However, like that's been a topic of discussion with Robbie internally for a while. Is like how do we scale this to be not just one app, but maybe like a more like a project slash micro like small company entity where you don't just have maybe a single app or maybe just don't have a single dev. How do we think about these entities? How do we think about scaling them? It's the current iteration of the product is apps, is one app that you're building. I think that's what we can do very well for now. In the future, I think it's going to be companies.
Nice. Yeah, I'm excited to see what it turns into on that side. And then a different question I had for you is every time I open Twitter, I realize how good Cursor is, how good Claude Code is, just one-shotting like highly technical project fixes and enhancements, right? I'm curious if the advancement of the underlying models helps or hurts Dev.Fun? Like those foundational models improving, does that help the experience of the user? Does that hurt your competitive ability? How does that work?
I would certainly say it helps. I think every time we've seen one of these underlying models kind of improve, all our users come back to us and mention like, "Yo, did you guys just update Dev.Fun? We can build so much more cool stuff with this." Um, and we've seen the quality of apps increase since we kind of launched in January, just because also the underlying models are kind of improving. So I would certainly say it definitely adds to Dev.Fun, and it definitely helps our users.
Yeah, the there's two way these things get better. The model is improving, which is kind of like a passive buff we're getting basically. But also like the scaffolding and all like the backend and internal tools that we're building and giving the AI just gets used better, just gets like leveraged better basically. So there's like this double like improvement almost. So I think we highly benefit from models getting better. I just hope they get better faster, you know?
And then on the Web 2 side, outside the foundational models, there's some big players, right? Like there's Lovable, there's Bolt. I think I saw the Lovable founder say that they created 10% of the websites last month. I don't think those numbers totally make sense, but directionally maybe. How do you guys view Dev.Fun competing with the Web 2 giants that aren't crypto native, not on chain, don't have this capital formation, but to be honest, they are really good application generators in their own right.
Yeah. I don't see us as exactly trying to conquer the same markets. I mean, I don't know their like whole plan obviously, but from what I'm seeing, they're like really positioned as tools to just build something. Which I mean, obviously we do that, but I think we really position ourselves as like kind of the more like an app store model almost, where distribution is what's the most important. Like the numbers of website Lovable claims they're like building. I mean, I'm willing to kind of buy into it. I actually think maybe it's possible, but you're never seeing that this is built on Lovable. Basically, they don't really get credit for it. What they're after is just like their MRR, like can they get users to subscribe to build those things? I think we really look at Roblox, Steam, and App Store as kind of like where what we aspire to be, more so than Lovable, where essentially the distribution is key, and like everyone that pushes content there kind of create this flywheel where like the winners will bring more customers to you, will like increase the distribution, which will make more people want to kind of deploy there. So at the end of the day, we just want that's a place where people discover like new companies, new apps, new consumer products, and just interact with them, you know?
Yeah, and I think as all of these kind of models get better and as all of these tools to vibe code get better and better and better, the main focus will not necessarily be like, okay, what can you build? Because I think at some point everybody will be kind of on par there. Um, but it will become like, I think the key component there will be like, okay, how can you distribute? Because we'll see everybody building their own little tools, building their own projects, building their own websites and companies. But as everybody is basically given this opportunity, like it's really going to be difficult to kind of stand out. And I think that's where Web3 and crypto is really the niche to kind of go for. Just because of access to CT, which I think is an incredible way to basically go out and spread the word. Just because you can basically just DM every user and people are pretty responsive, but also like this token aspect is pretty important, I would say, because it's like an incredible way to basically evangelize early supporters, early backers, and I do think this is some way we're going to be seeing it's going to be pretty normalized in the future, just because it's going to be like the best way to kind of go to market, and also just the best way to kind of grasp that attention that's going to be so scarce and so heavily fought over. As soon as everybody just basically gets the ability to build whatever they kind of want and limited to no time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also like the way we want to monetize and we approach like how we're making money is also very different because basically we just want to have it's a volume game, so we just want as much UGC as possible. We just want as much apps as possible, as much companies deploying there as possible, and we're gonna kind of win with the winners, like the ones that are like really popping off will bring most of our like kind of revenue and financial upside will come from those guys instead of just having people build tons of websites and they just like paying a subscription. And I think like this approach you can tell by the output and what people create on Dev.Fun versus what they would create on like Lovable. You'll notice that it's actually very, very different because we really want to have like winners. We have to, max out like their viral potential. We have to max out like how fun and good it can be to use one of those apps. And you see the creative output of our devs is just way superior in general. Like I've been looking a lot at their like competitions that they organize, and they end up with a lot of like web front page, more like boring stuff, maybe useful to a different type of audience. But I think we're just very different products at the end of the day.
Yeah, you guys have clearly thought a lot about it. One avenue I do want to double click on is the nuance between Dev.Fun, like requiring tokens for apps, and like a Lovable and a Bolt and Claude Codex that are not requiring them. So there's obvious positives, right? Capital formation, building a community, potentially even a forcing function on if this thing's gonna be successful or not, and to move on. But I'm curious, like, have you thought through not requiring a token, or is that something that's core to Dev.Fun forever?
Yeah, so basically when we went ahead and we launched, we required every app to kind of add and link a token. And a couple users asked us to be able to be given the option to go ahead and let them add a token later, since they kind of wanted to build out a little project and build up some hype for it, traction, whatever, to go ahead and launch a token later. So that's basically what we did. So yeah, at this point in time, you can either add a token immediately or you can add a token later, and it's really up for the user to decide. So yeah, we did give that some thought. But we also have seen that most users kind of still choose to kind of launch a token. But yeah, we have given people the opportunity to go ahead and yeah, add a token later.
That is pretty cool. I didn't know that. I thought you had to launch with one immediately.
Yeah, that's something we recently kind of changed. We're like always kind of trying to refine and see what's possible to do. See what's needed to change. Like this has been a lot of internal debate about whether the token is mandatory or not. We may come back to it being mandatory at some point. Like, we're just like always kind of seeing what works and what doesn't as well.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, the whole essentialism playbook. You can't be everything to everyone. I do see the value though in letting some developers just monetize with in-app transactions versus launching a token. But I guess it's up to you guys at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're just experimenting a lot as well.
Cool. A different avenue of question I wanted to ask you guys was on the technical architecture of Dev.Fun, right? Like, I'm not sure the best questions to ask you here. The first ones that come to mind are, what's on chain, what's off chain, and I think the second most important question would be, what AI models are being used under the hood? Like, is this a proprietary model? Is this a bunch of different models? Do you not want to share that information? Just curious to get the lowdown there.
No, I mean, I think we can share. Basically, in terms of what's on chain and or off chain, pretty much most is off chain. Obviously, we're allowing people to do Solana apps, and we have like a Solana framework. But in terms of like accepting payments, for example, this is not obviously there's a transaction involved, but a lot of the payment verification, for example, is like how do we make sure user cannot bypass the payment? How can we make sure the amount is correct? This is all like kind of backend services. I think the idea is to have the least amount of on-chain possible because I mean even Solana is pretty fast, pretty great. I think like having just backend verification is still the most like kind of efficient, the best way to go about it, and works really great with AI. So most of it is off-chain, but we obviously provide RPCs. We provide Helios RPCs to all our users. So by default, you can create an app that will have a wallet connection, that will have ability to connect to any smart contract that you desire, basically, right? So yeah, that's for like kind of the on-chain versus off-chain part. In terms of the models, we're not like at the stage where like we want or it's worth it for us to create our own like prop models. We're just using combinations of whatever is state of the art. Nowadays, I mean, obviously Claude is doing a great job in terms of coding model. I think Gemini is also great. We're using both depending on like what exactly is happening. Gemini being way cheaper and kind of a good way for like doing debugging, for example, because it's cheap, quite fast. And so basically what we're doing is we're taking those models and we're like scaffolding, we're building like a whole scaffolding around those. And most of the prop things that we do comes from all the services that we build and provide that are designed to be used by AI, basically. So we have like database services. People can prompt and have an app that has like a permanent state with a database, which is pretty unique feature. Like if you go on like Lovable or these other, like you have to kind of connect to your own backend service. We kind of provide a lot of those primitives by default, and we design those to be usable by AI. We create like AI first SDKs that we just plug into like our app generation framework. So like the Solana SDK is the same, and all the other things we provide are the same.
What do you think would be necessary to move on chain in the future that isn't on chain now? Like, I don't know if it would be the models or storage or yeah, not maybe using decentralized or distributed compute providers to run the apps. Like, what do you think would be the most valuable thing to decentralize moving forward?
We're not like the most we're not the biggest people on like decentralization. I think what is important would be, I mean, essentially kind of like the hosting. I mean, I think whatever makes an app harder to like be taken down by, we love like the freedom, obviously, that people can deploy kind of whatever they want and have like some sort of like, freedom of speech and all those things. So making this resilient is important. There's no like best kind of ways to go about it right now is how we feel.
Yeah, I guess maybe a different question on the protocol itself and an improvement and opening it up. There's obviously that the platform exists for anyone to come to build their app. Do you ever envision a world where people come to Dev.Fun to enhance the platform itself, like incentivizing AI developers to come and build on like the core protocol itself?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we're already exploring those things, whether it comes from, I mean, we've explored different things. There's like obviously all those MCP servers, like all those type of infrastructure that you can kind of use to plug and play and extend capabilities of your engines. That's something we kind of had in mind since the very first day, where like, how can we leverage like, in crypto, it's very common to kind of leverage your community to work for you. Or like kind of like this idea. So instead of doing all the integrations and like AI first SDKs or like extending the capabilities of our engine ourselves and like taking this burden, we definitely want to like open it up eventually where like people can start contributing their own like extensions and SDKs basically, and then it becomes like usable by everyone. Or maybe they can even monetize that. These are definitely things we're like thinking of.
It's awesome. It's always nice when other people come and help to build and things like that. I know we're jumping around a bit, but another topic I want to make sure we cover on this is just curation, right? Like there's 22,000 apps. I think there's hundreds of developers. I'll let you share the stats so I don't mess them up. But how do you guys just filter and sort and cut through the noise for users to access the best?
Yeah, I think that's also pretty interesting. It follow like I think apps like obviously people go on Dev.Fun and check out their favorite ones. But I think Dev.Fun kind of leverages a similar flywheel that or like flywheel, but like a similar core mechanism that kind of makes Pump.fun successful, where a dev will actually go ahead and create the app on Dev.Fun. Obviously get some attention from it on the platform itself, but will actually go ahead and basically shell it on Twitter, share it with people and get other people excited. And I think Twitter is really like the best way to kind of do this. and these type of people actually come back to Dev and check out the app and play around with it. So I think that's a really great way these people actually go ahead and promote their apps, and also how a bunch of people actually go ahead and find out about Dev.Fun, I think.
I guess the token, like, do the token market caps per app, do you think that's a good form of curation, or could that be a bad signal? I'm trying to figure out if that helps or hurts on the curation side.
I think it does help to some extent because I mean, obviously, tokens are just like reflective of the attention that flows towards a given app. So it just basically shows you, okay, this is a app that's hot right now. This is something that has a lot of mind share. I mean, it's just like a simple way of how a token works, right? But I wouldn't necessarily say that it's like super important for a really cool or useful app to have a really strong token. We see a bunch of different apps on our platform that people use that don't necessarily have a token that's performing incredibly well, but are still apps that are pretty cool or useful or yeah, have some kind of users. But I do think it is a decent way of kind of basically allowing users to or like allowing apps to curate like what's working or what's not working. So yeah, I don't think it's like necessary, but it definitely is like a good signal.
Have you ever had to step in and like turn an app off or just restrict an app, or can you or should you? It's obviously a really hard question to ask founders because people take extreme views of this, and but yeah, curious if that's happened.
I don't. We never had the situation where we really had to go ahead and step in, because like from there's like I guess two issues at hand where it would require us to step in. One would be if there's any sort of malicious smart contract stuff going on. With the basic dev base that we have that allows users to build these applications using smart contracts, we have a pretty secure framework that basically like only allows users to build apps that I guess don't include any like malicious content or malicious features. But on the other hand, when it comes to like yeah, I guess like this NSFW type of content where people create these apps that are like I guess like racist or whatever. I think that also kind of gets filtered out a lot by the underlying models that we use. Because I mean, you can't really go to like any sort of like LLM and come up with like the most racist concoction known to man because it will block you from doing that. So I think there is some sort of like safeguards there that basically filter that sort of stuff out for us. So yeah, there was never really like a situation where we had to go in and yeah, address somebody that built an app, and I don't think it's something that we would want to be doing, right?
Yeah,
Let the market,
exactly.
let the market decide. Let people decide what they kind of want to bet and speculate on. Yeah, we don't really want to be the juror there.
Yeah, I think our stance is basically that we don't really want to intervene, unless it's like blatantly illegal. We let kind of users comment, like you can comment on an app, you can kind of give like a review. There's a report button, we have like disclaimers, so obviously we're mindful that some things can happen. Like it's crypto, people will try to maybe extract or like do some weird things. Unless it's illegal, we're not gonna touch. I think we just want to like kind of let people also like some freedom to do whatever they want. We're not really positioning ourselves as the judge of what is considered like good or bad. I think it's really hard to kind of define those things, especially in crypto. Like everything is a scam now because price is going down, but is it really? It's kind of hard to tell. Um, I think if we start having this burden and if we start kind of having full responsibility for this, it's just like impossible. It becomes like an impossible task, basically. So, there's like laws, and we're gonna like follow the laws. And basically, it's like, child porn, like this kind of stuff is like obviously instant remove, right? Everything else is just up to kind of it's user generated content, basically.
Yeah, that is fair. I guess there comes a time when you'll have your poly market is Zelensky wearing a suit concern, but but sometimes having that much concern and issue is great because it just shows that hyper growth, I guess.
Yeah, there's obviously gonna be some growing pains. I think like I followed pretty closely when Pump.fun was having this whole debate about the streaming. back when they had streaming the first time before they shut it down. Like people were doing a lot of crazy things for attention. I think it was extremely entertaining personally, but a lot of people were not really liking it. And I think it was just very interesting to observe this debate. Nothing illegal was actually happening. I think like you would see like some fake kidnappings, whatever, but it was obviously all like performative. None of this was actually real, right? None of this was actually illegal, but it's just like kind of people just didn't like it, so they tried to like shut it down by canceling it and being just loud. Like who was right? You know, like it's kind of like there's nothing illegal happened, you know. So it's just like very interesting. People like when you associate kind of money, coins, and attention, somehow it starts becoming like this very weird relationship where they're like, you know, like it's like the next Black Mirror or something. Yeah, I think we're just gonna follow the laws for when it comes to this.
Yeah, it is interesting, especially because it appears live streaming is like one of the core theses of Pump.Fun, given their tweet this morning, right? Like killing Instagram, TikTok, etc. So they may have launched it early, but they're definitely leaning back into it.
Well, obviously, I think like when you saw what was happening there, I was convinced this is the future of entertainment. Like literally, I'm like, okay, this is insane. Like this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. To me, it really doesn't look like a Black Mirror episode. It's just like people do these kind of things all the time, but this was like a crazy platform to do so with a lot of attention back then.
Yeah, I mean, I could be totally wrong, but if they're able to target like influencers and creators and target all the people not in crypto that use those Web2 platforms, like it could be a massive onboarding event.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, streaming is the future, especially like with all, I mean, we're in the age of obviously so much, especially when it comes to video. I think the AI slopification of content, like if you look at Twitter, basically everything is AI slop right now. When I tweet, like some of the replies are like just bots. There's like barely any human content, it feels like. Having this authentic experience of just streaming is gonna become increasingly more valuable, I think. So yeah, it's just like a huge future for streaming in general, whether it's Web 2, Web 3, like yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Um, back to you guys though for the final 15 minutes we have. I want to, I mean, maybe a couple disparate questions here, but why Solana, right? Like we see, there's really successful L2s on Ethereum. You could launch your own chain. Like, why did you decide to build here, and why have you decided to stay here?
I genuinely think there's no other option. I think everything that is kind of interesting in crypto, like consumer facing, happens on Solana, and I think it just has like the best support rails. It has the users, and it's just like the easiest way to also onboard new users, easiest UI, all this sort of stuff. So I think it's just the most consumer facing chain there is, and I wouldn't really see another option, to be honest. Um, I mean, even when I talk to friends, I talked to them. I don't know when the last time was that I kind of interacted with Ethereum or any of the people that are active in crypto. Really, actually, we went on and used an app on ETH. So yeah, I think that's just like the only option, to be honest.
Yeah, we didn't really think about it too much, yeah. We just knew like it was gonna be Solana. We're also like I mean, obviously, we wanted to like the coins to launch through like Pump.fun as well. It was just the obvious choice. I think if we were to like, if you ask us, as is there like actually another option? I think the only kind of viable one we've seen would be Base, which has some merits. I think in terms of like distribution and their Coinbase integrations, like the Coinbase wallets, all those things. But yeah, it was Solana was the obvious choice to get the product out there.
Yeah, no, that is maybe it being the default no-brainer is the signal there, right?
Yeah, it
Um,
was just a no-brainer, exactly. Like we didn't have like a debate about it. We just like it just was that from the beginning.
Yeah.
yeah, that is pretty cool. And I think one of the cool things about having hosting you guys and other founders, I get to ask like the before and after questions along the way. When you first started, no apps on the platform, and now we bring up the site today and there's 22,000, right? So everything you were thinking about then, the growing pains, the features to build, the headaches, the fun experience have changed, right? What are you both thinking about now that differs from when you started? Is there different problems to overcome, different features you want to launch? Like, how has your mentality changed as founders from now until then?
Yeah, there's many things. I think we both have things to say here. Um, the My first assumption, and especially as a software engineer, was we have to make the most some like feature complete. Like software engineers all want to like build like very complex like things. Like you want complex systems. You want like I don't know. There's like this kind of fetishism about like the software complexity almost. And then we launched, and then people just want to make the funniest app and the funniest meme. And we're like, okay, like I guess market is always correct, you know. They actually don't care about like very complex features. What they want is just make funny interactive experiences. That was like a very interesting thing I learned from going to market. I think in general, it's also like, and that's something we want to expand more into. We assume that the people who are building the apps are building the software, the companies are also going to be completely taking care of the distribution, but actually the people who are like good at doing the selling are not exactly the same profile as the people who are good at doing the building. And so I think we're thinking into how can we structure this in like more of a complete like project company approach where you have like maybe people are taking good software and distributing it, and maybe people are just like building the software and like waiting for someone to distribute, and maybe they get like some reward for that, like they get paid. Because having like the same person do both the building and both the selling, the people who are really good at doing the selling, they generally just don't really maintain their apps, just try to do like some hype stuff and basically farm the users. And the people who are really good at doing the building, they can't really get traction. So how do we kind of solve this is like a next challenge.
Robbie, what about you? Devlin, that was awesome. I want to get Robbie's thoughts too before we move on.
Yeah, I think I genuinely agree with Devlord there, to be fair.
Yeah, that is the way to go. And
Hmm.
I mean, thinking ahead, like it is hard to build an ecosystem from scratch, but I think I've noticed this, the Buildle team is really helpful for you guys, and I think you're, closely in touch, and it kind of demonstrates an early community around you guys. Can we maybe talk a little bit about them, what they've built, and how they're helping Dev.Fun?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's pretty funny because they're actually, I mean, not really associated with us directly, but basically they were just like some of the earliest users of DevFund that were super excited about it, and were one of the first people to kind of join our whitelist when we launched. And since then, they've been super bullish on this vibe coding thesis, and have also thought to like add to kind of the DevFund ecosystem. And basically, what they've been doing is they've been trying to build this like accelerator for vibe coded projects, which I think they've done pretty successfully so far. Um, so yeah, we are in touch with them. We try to help them where we can. Obviously, they're super beneficial to us, and also great guys, a really cool team. And yeah, they support projects on Dev.Fun, support builders on Dev.Fun, and yeah, I've just been really kind of a really good asset to have since we launched. And and yeah, the project is cool. The team is nice. Really bullish on them.
It's pretty cool to have an organic accelerator out of nowhere
Yeah,
helping us.
it's definitely been helpful.
All right, now one of the hardest questions for you guys. If you were to eventually launch a token, you could opine if you do or don't, or it's undecided at this time, which is also fine. Figuring out how to reward all of your creators is tough, right? Because a lot of people are here quickly, they leave quickly, some stick around and they stick around for a long time, like just normal power law distro. How do you go about incentivizing people and keeping them, and it just seems really difficult.
Yeah, it is really difficult. I think ideally, like the ideal world is like the incentive speaks for itself. Basically, we don't have to do anything. What we just have to do is let them get to money as fast and as efficiently as possible. And this is enough for them to be like, to see the value. I think we've seen people kind of act this way already, whereas they're like, oh, like I would benefit from going from Dev.Fun instead of just doing something on my own because there's like better distribution, maybe because like I'm gonna get more attention, or it's gonna take care of the tech aspect for me. I have the idea, I know how to distribute, but I cannot build the thing. Like we've seen many cases where people kind of see the intrinsic value. I don't think it's like jobs not done, basically, I would say. Like we still have work to do to provide even more value and make it even clearer that, this is the place to be where like if you don't go there, like basically you're not gonna make it. We're not at that stage yet, but that's the goal, right? It's like think of it like a game launching on Steam versus creating their own like launcher. Like almost no one does that because the benefit is so obvious to just go on Steam and pay them the fee, right? You just get like best distribution and it's just easier for everyone. So we just want to position ourselves this way. I don't think tokens necessarily help. I think it's more like a vanity thing in a lot of cases where I can see the value of doing it, but doing it in the wrong way will be like just a bunch of vanity metrics where basically you're bribing like user for like short-term um, growth, but it's unclear whether it's gonna stick around or not once it's over. So I think our approach has always been like, can we see them sticking around before we start like bribing them, basically? Because the token incentivization is just like kind of boring against the future. You need to just pay for user acquisition, basically, right? So we're just careful about this.
Yeah, it kind of feels like a good metric to track would just be that in-game spend. Seeing when people are spending a lot of money in the apps. I guess that shows. And then the creators make money outside of token anyway, so it could work well.
I'm actually curious, like where you're obviously an investor in the space for a long time. I'm actually curious, like if you're looking at, investing in like, let's say you're like a trench VC now, and you're looking at projects you wanna, gamble a little bit, like buy some really low caps, like invest in very early stage companies. Like, what would you look at? Like, what's the criteria that would interest you the most?
Yeah, it's I try to not wear too many hats at the same time because it's just the mental capacity is obviously limited and the context switching really eats into things. So I'm trying to stay a little bit out of the trenches and more on the VC side. But if I were to envision Dev.Fun a year from now and I'm an investor and I want to spend money and invest in these applications, I mean, just having a Dev.Fun dashboard of users per app and the longevity of the creators and the money spent within their applications, I think would be, and then just like being able to see like videos and AMAs and stuff of the creators and their vision, I think would be a really cool site to have so you could get people to invest into these things. And I think that could be a really cool French site to have.
Yeah, that's very insightful. That's actually exactly what we're thinking. Yeah, cool.
Awesome. Well, guys, I want to thank you so much for coming on and having me and my partners as investors. And I want to thank 0x LTR of our on-chain data sleuth at the research company Delphi Digital for introducing us. And thanks so much, guys. I'm really excited for Dev.Fun.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, man, it was great chatting.